Now that we have a functional rig on our bendy pipe here, let's go ahead and add some new elements into the rig that will help us to manage, edit, animate, and organize all of these different armature bones within the character rig itself. Now, luckily for us, this process is pretty easy, but we've got to be a little bit more organized. And our organization system is going to start in the outliner. So let's jump over there real fast and take a look, see what we got going on. Okay, so if we look at our scene here, this is the default structure of every Blender scene. It's always going to have a scene collection and then a sub collection that's going to include some geometry and, of course, the default camera and the default light. We want to start separating that light in that camera away from all of the structural elements of the rig itself. So let's begin that process. We're going to create a new collection by clicking on this little icon in the upper right-hand corner of the outliner. And I'm just going to call these scene elements. And as one might imagine, this is where we're going to place all of our cameras and our lights. Now, we want to make sure we do this in object mode. I was in pose mode a moment ago, so I've just jumped over into object mode, Control-Tab on my keyboard, and I'm going to select both the camera, hold on the Shift key, and grab the light. Now, with both of those objects selected, we can move them from the collection, this one up here, to the scene elements collection. Blender is all about collections. They're a fantastic tool in our organizational system. So let's take advantage of that and move these objects from the collection into the scene elements collection. And we do that by hitting the M key, M as in move or as in mother. Once you hit the M key, we can choose which collection we want to move it to, or we can actually create a new collection from this menu as well, which is pretty neat. But of course, naturally, I'm just going to create scene or select scenes elements from that list. Now, let's be a really good steward of the name of this initial collection because it's no longer serving the entire scene. It has a very specific purpose, and I'm going to call this pipe character. There we go. And everything that that's going to be used for this character is going to be in this one collection. Now, we want to add some control locators onto the rig itself. If we zoom out and take a look-see here, at the moment, in order for us to manipulate all the bones, we got to select the bones themselves. If you remember back to the beginning of this process, we changed the viewport display properties of the armature to be in front, right? And it's being drawn on top of all of the geometry for the mesh. Now, when it comes to animating, we really don't want to see our bones, but we do want to be able to manipulate them in real time. Point being, we are going to have to go in and change the viewport display properties of the object back to in front being off. But we still want to be able to see some sort of kind of machine element, if you will, some sort of locator or some sort of control surface that allows us to manipulate these bones without actually having to select the little trapezoids themselves, and thus enter the world of custom locators, and they're pretty neat. These custom locators can really be any sort of two-dimensional path. We're going to keep it really easy and incredibly simple by just beginning with a locator itself. So I'm going to do Shift-A. I'm in object mode, by the way. And under this empty area, we're going to just throw in a circle, okay? Let's rotate it 90 degrees along the x-axis, okay? Rotate, x. And I'm just going to, over here in my channel box, I'm just going to type in 90. There we go. Yes, I like that. That's pretty great. I'm also going to scale it up a little bit by hitting the S key just to make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Initially, when I was creating this locator, my pipe character collection was selected. And this is an important Blender tip that we have all been kind of growing into as we've been getting more and more experience working with Blender. Whatever is the active collection, whatever collection has this rounded rectangle, this gray rounded rectangle in the background, is going to be the home of any new object that we create inside of our three-dimensional scene. So let's just call this new one, we'll call this circle. There we go. And we're going to use this shape as a replacement for our bones. Since it's already in the pipe character collection, this is a good start. But I'm going to go one step further and add a new collection into the mix. And let's just call this one Custom Shapes. This custom shape collection is going to be a library of different shapes and two-dimensional curves that we can use within inside of our rigging system. I want it to be a child of this pipe character way up here. So let's go ahead and move it. Hit the M key. Oops, forgot. With collections, you got to just left click and drag. You can only move objects, but when it comes to working with these collections, you just left click and drag. My apologies. And I'm going to grab my circle here, and I'm going to move it into this custom shape. And this is a great way of working because what this allows us to do is to have one collection that serves as kind of like the master folder, and all of the different objects and elements of the rig and of the character rig itself are going to be encapsulated in this one folder, which I am all about. So we're going to reuse this one a couple times. Let me show you how we're going to use it itself. Now, I know that I said that we are going to be turning off the visibility of our bones in the rig itself, and we are at the end of this process. We're absolutely going to turn off this in front process. With it off, I actually need to turn it back on because I need to select the bone. And what we're going to do is that we're going to replace this bone shape itself, this trapezoidal bone shape, with the custom shape, that custom circle that we created a moment ago. This allows us to have the custom shape expand outside of the boundaries of the geometry and gives us an easy control surface, a knob, if you will, for our bones themselves. So we got to do this in pose mode. So just a little control tab to jump into pose mode. I'm going to select the bone itself. Now the place that we go, let's back over into our properties, and we're going to go into our bone properties right here. And specifically, where we're going to go is in the viewport display. It's really important to remember that we're not doing this at the object or at the armature level. So we're not going into the viewport display properties of the object. These are all the properties of the armature. We're doing this on an individual bone process. So we're going to go into the bone properties. And down here at the bottom, we're going to use custom shape. Now, there's a couple different ways that we can do this. Of course, we can use the eyedropper tool to just eyedropper and select our object like that. That's a great way of working. You can also click on the option box in here and select the custom shape that you want. Ta-da! There we go. Now, what it's done is that it has replaced the bones shape, that trapezoidal shape with the two spheres with that ring. Now at the moment, if we return to our outliner, the original kind of raw custom shape of our circle is visible. So let's turn both of these off. We want to turn off its scene visibility. Two-dimensional shapes are never going to be rendered, so you don't necessarily have to disable the render properties. I kind of do that out of habit. That's just me. We can collapse this. And now what we're left with is this shape. And of course, we can go in, and as we move and rotate that shape around, you can see that it has now a true control surface for that bone. One other thing, and this is just kind of me getting a little bit into this, at the moment, the color of that shape, if you look real carefully, the color is black. And that makes it very difficult to see inside of our gray three-dimensional viewport. So I think I'm going to change the color of this. This is kind of a nice little trick that I like to do. Again, we're doing this at the bone level. You got to be in pose mode for all of these bone properties to be exposed. And under the viewport display section, we're going to change the bone color to yellow. Number 9, that's for me. Usually when it is a control locator that's running down the middle of the object, the standard convention for the color coding outside of in our industry and outside of our doors is going to be yellow. There we go. And now, instead of black, that shape is going to be yellow. Excellent. Let's do it one more time. I'm actually going to do it on this shape as well, just to kind of give you a good illustration as to why this is super important for us. I'm not going to do it on all of them, but we certainly could. So we're going to return to the custom shape property of our bone object data properties. We're going to choose circle. Ta-da! Let's also change this one to be yellow as well. And there we go, which is pretty great. So we can grab that one. We can grab that one, and we're still able to manipulate the entire shape here now. Now, what's cool about this, and let's just jump into object mode real fast. I'm going to select my armature itself, and as one might imagine, we're going to go return to the object properties. And now if we turn off the in front, check it out. And this is why it's so cool. Those custom shapes remain in the scene. They've gone black. That's because we're in object mode. If we were to select it, jump back into pose mode, you can see that now they're colored again, which is pretty great. I like that. So this is the power of the custom shapes and the organizational system. It allows us to intelligently design this control rig so that we can use it and animate it in a much more efficient process. And I can't recommend adding custom shapes and organizing your rig the way I've done it here.